Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Results Loading podcast hosted by Prosperous AI. I'm your host, Michael Atkin, and today I'm very, very happy to welcome Anthony Argenziano, founder and CEO of VelocityPM. Anthony, myself, and the rest of the Prosperous and VelocityPM teams are in Jason Calacanis' Founders U together. Wanted to hear more about Anthony's story here, so decided to invite him here onto the podcast. Anthony, welcome. Thanks so much for being on today, man.
Yeah, hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So want to jump right in here, Anthony. At this point, you've had quite the extensive background, both in the corporate and startup spaces, it seems like. Predominantly, you've been involved in tech and product, mostly product development. Given your career thus far, tell us about VelocityPM, why you felt the urge to start it in 2022, and what led to that moment in your come-up career.
Yeah, sure. And I think I could kind of cover both sides of that with this answer, meaning my career and what brought me here. Yeah, as you mentioned, I've done mostly startups, but I've definitely done some big companies. Spent some time at eBay. That was through an acquisition of a startup. Spent time at Amazon, and way back in the day was at Intel. But kind of sandwiched in between and around all of that was, a lot of startups. And I as you mentioned, I led product and tech teams for the most part, kind of chief product officer, chief technology officer roles, and especially in those startups and the earlier stage, the smaller things that I've done, just had the opportunity to lead both sides. Right, in a big enterprise company, you're going to have separate roles for that, but that's what I always enjoyed, is leading both sides. And throughout my career, I kind of built up a framework, I guess is the best way to describe it, that I use to build products. And, I had to kind of pull together a lot of different tools. And over the years, one of the things that just kind of kept gnawing at me, like it just drove me crazy, was in the true software development space, the tools there are, really, I guess it's a much more mature market. There's plenty of tools. They're really complete. But even now and recently, the product management tools out there, or any of the kind of product tools, they just weren't as complete. It wasn't as mature of an industry. So I kind of built stuff myself, but I used a wiki combined with a spreadsheet and some kind of repository, and I just pieced things together. So, but developed a repeatable blueprint or framework for building products. So a couple of years ago, was at another startup, and I was itching to do my next thing. While I've worked for a ton of startups, this is only the second one that I've been the founder of. So was looking for that, that next idea. And I actually, we started as a marketplace. So, you hear about the pivot all the time. That's us. We for sure did the pivot. And so we were going to be a two-sided marketplace to match product managers with tech companies, any software companies primarily that needed product managers. And we started going out and doing experimentation, met with founders and product leaders. And, there were mixed results, right? A lot of people were a little bit hesitant, as important as the role of a product manager is, to kind of quote unquote outsource it. And I'll tell you, at the time, my kind of go-to response was, even, pre kind of the or mass resignation, or whatever the heck that, after COVID, what it was called, the big resignation, like even prior to that, the average tenure was closing in on 2 years and shorter for a product manager. So, my response was, well, you're doing that anyway, right? Like, you're going to have to hire people, get them on board and train them, and then they're going to bounce and you're going to have to do it all over again. But it still wasn't really compelling enough for the people that were opposed to it. So myself and my co-founder and a couple of other people we had involved, we were talking about it. And there always was a platform, right? There was always software and a platform as part of the idea. It was going to be much like, think of Uber drivers use the Uber driver platform to do their job. We were going to have a product management platform for these kind of gig product managers to do their job. So I think you could see where this is going. We said, no, let's just be SaaS, right? Let's just take that platform that we had kind of started to build. We had some ideas on it. Let's get rid of the marketplace aspect and let's make this a true product management, kind of end-to-end product management platform for product leaders and PMs, and ultimately anybody involved in product development. So that's kind of my background and the genesis for how we came up with this.
So VelocityPM right now, you're basically connecting product managers with companies that need help with their product development, essentially, correct?
Well, so no, we got rid of the marketplace part. So we just sell the software.
Got it. Okay. So the software is helping with the product dev. So are you like integrating a bunch of applications into a single interface, or what is that user experience really looking like for your customers?
Sure. No, it's basically, so, we're not creating a new industry or a new market. There's product management software out there. Aha is our biggest competitor. There's Product Board, Product Plan, Craft, Chisel. There's some other companies doing this, but they're just, kind of incomplete. They have a lot of gaps. They don't address the whole market. So really the user experience is, whether I'm a product manager or a product leader, I sign up, fill out a quick registration form. Then we ask for what we call a product overview. And it's essentially, tell us a few sentences. Tell us a little bit about your product. Tell us the solution you're building, maybe the industry you're in, the problem you're solving. You give us just a little bit like that. We edit or send it to our AI engine, and we essentially fill out a lean canvas. So here's the personas. Here's your competitors, here's your value proposition. And we fill this out, then becomes the starting point to manage the rest of the product development lifecycle. And we have a complete platform to do that. So to write your requirements, to build your roadmap, to do problem and opportunity mapping, to do story mapping, all these things that product managers do, we have a platform and a copilot, AI copilot on top of that guide them through that process.
Got it. So AI-powered product development, product mapping, everything in between that would be required in terms of that product dev. AI-powered kind of helping with the process, taking a bit of the hands-on element off the table and letting AI do a lot of the work in the back end.
Yep. Yeah, and then let product managers do what they do best, and that is to take that AI-generated data and then your product, right? As a user of our platform, so we're generally 80-90% just accurate, spot on, valuable data. But then rather than have to do that from scratch and write all this documentation, then a product manager can review it, refine it, resubmit it back to our AI, and that's what continues to train our model.
And then the product managers, the product developers, and leaders can really fine tune it using VelocityPM essentially until they end up with a perfect product, if you will, more or less.
Yeah, for sure.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. So curious, like after so many years in product development yourself, you've obviously held various C-suite roles, director roles. Why now in 2022 to choose to branch off and start this startup given the high level positions you've held in the past? I mean, what really drove you towards coming up with this idea and really saying, you know what, I'm going to start my own startup? I mean, like you mentioned, you've been involved in several, only one other one that you actually founded. Why now, or why 2022 to go ahead and execute on this one?
Yeah, no, great question. And I think a few things kind of, converged here. One is I was just ready, right? Like I love startups. I love building products. I was ready to go do, my own thing again. And also, as I kind of surveyed the market, I saw this need. I mean, it's been a personal pain point of mine. But the very first thing I did is, I started doing some research, some experimentation, talking to potential customers. And, I wanted to make sure that I didn't have this assumption that this problem exists when nobody else had that problem. So, kind of started off as, well, let me just get out there and start talking to some folks. And it ended up with everybody I spoke to, every founder, every product leader, every product manager, they had the same problems, right? The core problem that we're solving is most products, whether you're a startup or even, more established company, but most products fail, right? They don't ever reach product market fit. So, I thought back on my own experience and how can I help that, right? How can I build a product that helps that? So, yeah, it was just like I said, it was kind of a convergence of a number of things, not the least of which was, I did work for some big companies, as you saw, but my stint there was kind of short because I can't do the big company thing. I need to be in a startup and be able to pivot and move fast and all that. So kind of everything I love to do, and then the professional pain points that I was experiencing, it just all converged. And I'll throw one more in there, which was, AI and LLMs, and really kind of coming to the forefront around that time frame. So, you know, I tend to not like to use the word an aha moment, because I mentioned aha is the name of one of our biggest competitors. So
Yeah.
I'll say my light bulb moment. That was a true kind of light bulb moment for me, where everything just kind of like it just became obvious. How could I not do this?
Yeah, absolutely. And a few things you just said really stuck out to me that I don't think are too unique, especially in the founder world or the entrepreneurial world. Number one, a personal pain point that you were experiencing in the corporate world. It's like, you know what? I can go and do this better myself. You kind of find, and I think a lot of founders who come from the corporate world, me included, find themselves stuck in that corporate box. You're very confined in terms of the way you think and the way you execute sales processes and engineering and everything in between. In your case, product development, and you're actually experiencing those pain points firsthand, except you're not working for yourself. And being stuck in that corporate world, I think a lot of people have that light bulb moment. And it's like, you know what? I can do this myself. I have the repertoire and I have the moxie to go, and I think I could execute this better. And a lot of people talk about it, especially like, in my experience, all the entrepreneurial conversations, especially when I was really younger, happened at the bar, for example. And it's like you're having drinks with your buddies or something. It's like, oh, we should do this. Let's go start a company. 99% of the time, nothing ends up, it's a lost conversation. But those who actually go out and execute on an idea that, that they had based on their day to day, and when they're stuck in their corporate life, it's really commendable. And I think it's a really unique thing to founders. But a story I hear, especially here on the Results Loading podcast pretty often, I was working at Amazon, I was working at Intel, or I was working at what have you, name your big company.
Yeah.
And I saw the pain points firsthand, and I realized I could go and do it better. And so I did. And here you are several years later, which is fantastic, right?
Yeah, no, that's it. And you're right. I mean, I think you see it as common in most founders, if not all.
Yeah, and it's required. And then for the icing on the cake, AI and the onslaught of AI and its move into the mainstream in the market. It's like, man, we have so many resources to make this work in so many facets of not only starting a business, but executing a business plan. Like, it's a no-brainer at that point, especially when you're itching to go and have the fast moving, work environment that you're craving, that you weren't getting at your previous job. It's like, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to go and get this done myself, So, love that entrepreneurial story and that Genesis story for you. And with that being said, I'm curious, what were some of the pivotal decisions or strategies that contributed to your business's growth from, like, say, pre-revenue to where it is now, for example? Like, what were some of those initial main decisions that really got things up and running, given you've existed for more than 2 years? Obviously, something's going right.
Sure. I think a lot of it was how we chose to go to market, and then some interesting things we learned along the way. But I felt pretty early on, this is a PLG, a product led growth type play. We'll have an enterprise sales team in the future, of course, especially as we want to target bigger companies. But so this felt very much like a product led growth play. So we kind of felt that, and I said, well, look, we're going to start with doing this very organically. I'm going to first reach out to my network. I know a lot of software people, a lot of product people and founders. And then we also made a decision to lean hard on LinkedIn. And I've been now for, it's probably close to a year, if not a year, just expanding my network on LinkedIn. I reach out to other product people, other founders, and then ask them, early on when we just had an MVP before we launched the actual product. I'd kind of, it was a little bit more elegant than this, but it was like, hey, you're a fellow product person. Help me out here, man. Sign up, right? Just sign up and tell me what you think. Again, a little bit more elegant than that. But what surprised me was how well it worked. I mean, we signed up almost 300 companies we have 300 companies on the platform now. Over 250 were signed up before launch, when it was just an MVP, when it wasn't much more than an idea. Yeah, we had something there, but it wasn't much. I was surprised just how much and maybe how quickly it resonated with other product folks. So that's been our growth path, right? We signed people up for, originally it was completely free, and then when we launched on June 20th, so we're not even 30 days in market with the production product. It was completely free up to that point. And then starting on June 20th, we said, okay, if you're already on the platform, now we're going to start your 30-day trial. And for anybody new that signed up, they signed up to the 30-day trial. No credit card required, right? We're early stage. We don't want to have any barriers, right? Obviously, it's going to make conversion lower. That's that trade-off. It's, you don't require a credit card, make it easy to sign up. You get more people, but you get lower conversion versus, you put the credit card up front, you get less people to sign up, but higher conversion, right? We weighed that trade off and said, no, we'll live with the lower conversion rate, but to get more people on the platform, because again, that's the PLG approach. Let people use it. They get value out of it, and they choose to continue on.
Yeah, so they choose to continue, especially when it's kicking ass and it's like actually bringing value to their everyday. It's like, yeah, we need to pay for this, right? That's the beauty of PLG, because a lot of companies are like, yeah, especially in the startup world, and I think they talk about this in Founders U a lot, as the worst thing you can possibly do is overprice your product, and then it doesn't bring the value, and your reputation is tarnished forever. And I think something we focus on with our company too is it's like we really, really want to start that price point low. We want to undervalue and over deliver, because similar to you with that PLG, that product led growth, let the product do the talking, let them see the value, and then you can reassess pricing later on once you have 250, 300 customers signed up, such as you guys.
Yeah, for sure. So, July 20th is going to be a big date for us, because that'll be when, we'll have over 250 companies that are signed up. Their trial will expire that day, right? Because like I said, we set the 30-day window for anybody that was already on the platform. So some of them have already converted. Some of them have already put in their credit card number and converted. But, I'm expecting most, once they see, oh, my trial has expired, I need to convert now, that's going to be a big day for us. So we'll see how that goes.
Totally. And so you guys had 250 signed up users or companies before you even really went live. Obviously you had something, but you utilized LinkedIn, reached out to people who would fall under your ICP and said, hey, sign up, take a look, it's free. And that was back in 2022, 2023, I would imagine, right? Or was that more recently than that?
Well, it was September of 23, September of last year, okay, until June, until last month. That was that period of time where we were sending out the connection request and then sending out messages to them after they connected. So yeah, it's been less than a year that we've been doing that, and got those results.
It's a great go-to-market approach. We talk about getting feedback all the time. Don't build a product and then take it to market. Build something for the market. That's something that we experienced as well with our initial product at Prosperous AI. After a lot of having conversations in volume and getting feedback from the market, we realized that there wasn't a great product market fit based on what we were building. So not even with a huge pivot, more of a messaging pivot to, instead of we can increase your efficiency and productivity, the messaging is now we can save you a ton of money. Now the light bulb goes off and we're having many more conversations, also because the market's much more responsive to saving money than increasing efficiency. Why pay for a tool to increase efficiency if my sales team has hit their quarterly quotas the last 8 quarters in a row, for example? Right. So it's a really, really great approach to taking your product to market, especially with that no price point. You show the value, and then now it's like, hey guys, June 20th, 30-day free trial. Hopefully you stick around going into July.
Yep, for sure.
So once July 20th comes around, are you guys kind of having like a big how are you going to make sure that this stays top of mind for your 250, 300 customers that you currently have? Are you doing like an email blast? Are you going to be calling everybody, hey, the trial ends today, get some feedback? Are you going to stay with us? What is that day going to look like for you, given we've highlighted July 20th on the calendar?
Yeah. So, when you were listing off a list of things, I was going to just say yes, right? We're going to do all of that. We do send out regular emails just to get people engaged. When there's new features, we tell them that. We don't want to overdo it, but at the same point, every opportunity we get, we're reaching out to our users. In the future, we'll do that in app as well. Right now we do it through email only, and we'll start to build that out. So we've been doing that. Um, we'll tell them in the app. And we have a big mass email going out to users, right? Tomorrow, because that'll be 3 days before, for the ones that their trial expires,
Sure.
which is the majority. We'll send them out, hey, it's in 3 days. We're going to offer a promotion and things like that. So it's, finding that balance of staying engaged with our users, but not overdoing it, right? No one wants to every day be getting an email or text or whatever from some app they're using. Yeah.
Absolutely. And shifting gears a little bit, Anthony, onto like more of the difficult days, weathering the hurricane of startups, if you will. Can you share a significant mistake you guys made early on? Anything that comes to mind that you're willing to share, and what came of it? Obviously, there was a bounce back at one point or another, but if you could, a significant mistake or a darker day in terms of really having to take on that hurricane.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the one that pops right to mind is less the product and more the company. So our plan early on was, we were self-funded, myself and my co-founder. We were self-funded for the first year plus, as we were just it was an idea, and we were building it out. And we were planning to do kind of the friends and family pre-seed type round. And we were convinced by a founder, another founder. I'm obviously not naming names, but we were convinced by somebody. You know what? Just go straight to the seed round, even before your product. And that it didn't sit right with me. I'm like, no, that's it's just not what I've done, right? If you're on your 10th startup and you've made 100,000x exits for VCs, they're going to cut you a check anytime you want, right?
Yeah.
Before the idea pops into your head. But I've been successful, but I haven't had my own startup where I've made a ton of money for VC. So generally, you got to be in revenue to do your seed round. And anyway, long story short is, we said, okay, let's bypass a friends and family / pre-seed round. Let's go straight for our $3 million seed round, and made some great connections. We have some people teed up and ready to go, meaning some really good VCs, but they all said the same thing, right? Like, we don't do pre-revenue. Come back when you're at X MRR.
A tale as old as time.
Yep.
A tale as old as time with those VCs.
And it just goes to say, it doesn't matter how old or how experienced, we tend to make the same mistakes. I knew that, and I let myself be convinced otherwise, and it hurt. Because then we were running out of money, and we hadn't really spun up the angel friends and family route. So we obviously we did that pretty quickly. We raised a little bit of money. We're still raising right now, and we've pushed out the seed round till later this year, maybe even early next year, depending on our revenue growth. So that one hurt, and I think it made it even a little bit extra in that I knew better and still did something wrong, still made a big mistake.
You allowed yourself to get lured into that, not fantasy, because it's certainly possible, but that, the VC landscape has changed so much, as just in the last 4 years, right? Because back in 2019, 2020, they were cutting checks for great ideas in pre-seed. And now it's funny you bring this up, because, here at Prosperous, we've had similar conversations, gotten our hopes up several times with the direction of VC conversations that we've had. And then, as end up most of the time, falling through the cracks. But to my point about it being a tale as old as time, it's like, oh, I can't tell you how many times I've heard the response, it's a little early for us. Hit us up in 6 months. Hit us up when you're post revenue, even though they hit us up, they wanted to have a conversation, and then it ends up going nowhere. So yeah, definitely a painful process. we'll be feeling the glory when things convert for, both of us, you
sure.
and me alike. But yeah, definitely a great example. And I think something that's really relatable for founders trying to raise, especially here in 2024.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure. It's really, really timely right now.
Definitely, Anthony. And one last question I have for you. We talked about aha moments, aka light bulb moments. Seems like you've had quite a few. You've touched on a few already in this conversation, but I want to throw it back to you on this one. Can you share with us one of those, the main light bulb moment where you physically felt like things were really starting to change for Velocity PM for the better? You think of like a specific moment or idea that at the end of the day, you really felt that the tides were starting to turn and all that scratching and clawing that you had been doing to stay alive was moving into a really positive direction.
Yeah, I mean, we had so many of them, some smaller, some bigger. While from the very beginning of this idea, like especially once we started to pivot from marketplace to a SaaS company, again, we knew AI was part of this, but and honestly, it's one of those things where I'm gonna have to come up with a good story to tell it later, right? But I can't even remember exactly how and when it happened. But that initial onboarding that I mentioned, to where you sign up and we ask you for a little bit of information about your product, and boom boom boom, the AI runs. Like, that was something that just we were probably sitting around a table and bouncing ideas. I honestly don't remember, can't pinpoint that moment. But then it was just all of a sudden, of course, right? We get as little bit of information as possible, and we complete kind of a lean canvas, right? Like that foundation for their product to for the rest of the product development lifecycle. That was a big moment, because it really changed not even the direction, but kind of changed the tenor of what our platform is and does. And again, I feel like I just got to come up with some better story, because I don't remember that moment. It just kind of, over conversations and back and forth, it just all of a sudden was there, and it was like, well, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, no, it's the gut feeling. I think, again, it's not unique when you're, tracking down this path, and then all of a sudden you have one of these light bulb moments when it's like, we need to go this direction. We need to do it today. And then you don't turn back, and, several years have gone by, and you have, 250, 300 plus customers, and you give yourself a pat on the back for, and not necessarily this big highlight moment, like you mentioned, just a moment that you remember having, and it ended up being a great decision for you, because here you are sitting here talking to me still about how it worked out really well. And, we're 4 days away from July 20th, revenue on the horizon as well.
Sure. Yeah. It's like you hear a lot about, people think overnight success. There's no such thing, right? It's you did
Nope.
100 things, a million things, whatever it is, and then all of a sudden, maybe that last one puts you over the edge. That's what that felt like, right? Is we were grinding and talking to customers and putting an MVP out there, and it was just like what felt like this little thing of, oh well, we should start by, taking a quick overview and running all this AI, but if we hadn't been talking to customers and doing all that experimentation and testing, we wouldn't have come up with that, right? But it just, feels like a little thing at that moment, but a lot led to that, for sure.
Which is what it's all about, especially in the world we play in, man. That's what it's all about. So glad you experienced it. Well, Anthony, hey, I really appreciate you being on the Results Loading podcast today. Great insight, great come up story. Really, really huge congratulations to you guys for all you've accomplished, and good luck moving into the future. Before we move on, is there anything else you'd like to mention before we wrap up here?
Well, sure. Obviously, anybody out there listening that, if you have a product management team, if you're a product manager or product leader, love for people to check out the platform. It's www.VelocityPM.com, and it's an I instead of a Y there. So Velocity with an I, PM.com. We think it's a great product. Our mission is to enable any company in the world to build great products. And we think our platform does that and is on the way to continue doing that. So we'd love people to check it out.
Fantastic. I echo everything you just mentioned. Congrats again. Good luck to you guys. And we'll definitely be keeping an eye on you. So thanks again. And we'll see you next week at Founders U.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Anthony. Likewise. Talk soon.